I'm curled up in a ball, puking my brains out, having my first, I will say, really, really difficult ayahuasca experience. And I get this download, and this download says to me, "You're a girl." Eventually I would get to the point where I would say, okay, this makes sense. Rather than being a mentally ill, cisgender, heterosexual man, I'm a perfectly normal transgender woman. Yeah, what was life like before any of my meaningful psychedelic experiences? I was assigned male at birth. So as far as I knew, my entire life, I was a cisgender, heterosexual man. And I grew up that way. I grew up thinking I was one of two boys, a younger son of two parents, and went through life thinking, yeah, I'm a boy, I'm a man. I did very well in school, and I started to do very well in sports. When I quit that after college, I got into business and was relatively successful in the financial services industry. Around the age of 40, as I understand my Saturn's return, I started a deep meditation practice, and really that began like this deep introspection and inner journey. The circles that I ran in and the circles that I was exposed to overlapped with the psychedelic realm. And about 4 years ago, I decided I wanted to do ayahuasca after hearing Gabor Mate talk about ayahuasca. And so I'm like, I need to do ayahuasca. I called up a buddy of mine in Utah and said, hey, do you know anything about ayahuasca? And can you get me some? He said, let me check around and I'll call you back. 2 weeks later, I get a call and an invitation to go to a ceremony. He flew in a couple of shamans from New York, from the Santo Daime tradition. In any event, I started doing these ayahuasca ceremonies. I did four before the one of which, I want to focus on. Those experiences also awoke in me sensitivity to what I will say is the divine feminine, and started to feel this rising feminine energy that was very non-personal, but just, I think, very much in the collective. So by this time, I'm 47 years old. I'm married. I have 2 children. I'm making really good money. I'm in a job that I love. I was the director of compassion, teaching mindfulness-based emotional and social intelligence. And a week before the experience we're going to talk about, I remember thinking to myself, my life was perfect except for one little thing. And this little thing kind of gnawed at me on the inside. And so I guess I was seeking healing. I was seeking wholeness. I was seeking understanding of myself and my inner world. And through that inner world, understanding everything better. The experience I'm going to talk to you about is one specific journey involving ayahuasca. I had sat with ayahuasca a few times before this experience, always in a ceremonial setting with a medicine carrier and a song carrier and a guide. Then I went to Utah to visit a buddy of mine who had some ayahuasca, and we drove out into what I call the Utah desert, into the canyon lands. So we're in the desert, just he and I, and he's playing music and off wherever, and I'm curled up in a ball, puking my brains out, having my first, I will say, really, really difficult ayahuasca experience. And I get this download, and this download says to me, you're a girl. You're a girl. And I mean, I can't even describe the impact, because what came in after that was just, my consciousness was just flooded with all of these experiences throughout my life that had made sense. You see, this was a little bit of a surprise to me, but kind of also I'll say it was a surprise, but it wasn't shocking, because throughout my entire life, I had 48 years at this point, I was under the impression that I was a cisgender heterosexual man with a mental illness. That mental illness being that I had always, as long as I can remember, wanted to be a girl. I wanted to be a woman. It was not anything I ever talked about. It was never anything that I said to anyone. It was so shameful. I didn't even write about it in my private journal because I thought someday those journals would be found by my children. I had never heard of such a thing. I grew up in Texas in the 70s, okay? And I never expressed it in any way other than on occasion I would sneak into my mom's closet and try on her clothes, being very, very careful, deadly careful to, I mean, it would be, I couldn't, beyond mortifying to have found this to be, this was such a closely guarded secret. So I get this download, you're a girl, and suddenly, like, it's like, holy shit. Memories started to come in when I'm a kindergartner, going to the Nutcracker Ballet and seeing, you know, and just wanting to be a ballerina, thinking I was just dealt the wrong hand. Suddenly this made sense. No wonder, Cory, you wanted to be a girl. You wanted to be a woman. You are one. You are one. I feel like the universe was dropping me all these hints, all these breadcrumbs and all these data points. And as I am, you know, as I think the ayahuasca does, is just like, okay, grandmother, sit you down and say, let me just make this really clear for you because you're not getting the hints. You are a girl. It was really destabilizing. I mean, married, 2 kids, in an environment that I did not feel would be friendly to this. There was zero indication to me or anyone else that I was transgender other than what I mentioned. So it was very destabilizing and led to, you know, this unraveling of my life. But that process of making sense of that being a girl and integrating that into my very non-girlish life was very challenging. As you can see, I'm fully out as a trans. I hope I look feminine. I may not sound feminine, but I am out. I should have on my little, you know, name. I use she, her pronouns. I am out as a transgender woman. I've been out publicly for 2 years. When I first got this download that I'm a girl, I did not have good support. So my integration of this information was very messy, more messy than I think was necessary. It led to me, just a trigger warning here, I mean, this was in July of 2019. By December, late December of 2019, I was ready to kill myself. The thought of coming out as a trans woman and transitioning was an impossibility to me. It did not seem like something I could possibly do. And the toothpaste was out of the tube, so I couldn't go back. So I couldn't go forward, I couldn't go back. Up until this point, I'm like, you know, Cory, you've had a really good life. It's really been remarkable. You can leave now. Like, this is a good time to leave. Well, the night my thinking went from not if I was going to kill myself to how I was going to kill myself, I got another download. But this time the download said, Cory, you're clearly not afraid to die, which I wasn't. Why are you afraid to live? That sparked something in me. And so I started to come out, and I started to come out to friends. And very fortunately, I was surrounded by a very good group of friends, understanding, and was met with open arms and slowly started to come out. So, you know, that was January of 2020, and now, you know, coming up on now 3 years, I've been slowly stepping into my new identity as a woman, and that has led to physical transition. I started hormone therapy. As I mentioned, I came out publicly just over 2 years ago in October of 2020, and have been living in my gender as a woman since October of 2020, really. The one tool or resource that I would recommend prior to a psychedelic journey is having a safe container for this. Set and setting are very important. Being held before, during, and after these experiences, really important. Having a support network, having somebody that can help you clarify your intentions before this and ensure that you are going into these experiences with the right motivation. I really feel you need to be very deeply called to these experiences, and they're very much not recreational in nature. You just never know what you're going to uncover, and I think it's really important to know that you've got the right support network. So setting, safety, support network, all very important to have in place prior to these experiences.